Our next presenters are from Walnut Hills Elementary in Waukee. They are Joni Gilchrist and Sarah Emerick.
Yay! Well, thanks everybody. We want to get started the right way. Ready, Joni? All right. The power of a high five. My name is Sarah Emerick, and I am a teacher librarian at Walnut Hills. This is my 4th year as a teacher librarian, 17th year in education. I also serve as a co-science curriculum leader.
And my name is Joni Gilchrist. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Walnut Hills and also the other science curriculum leader in our building, and I've been teaching for 29 years.
Awesome. Go ahead.
So our mission at Walnut Hills is nurturing the head, hand, and heart in order to positively shape the world and our future. In order to reach this goal, we try and incorporate a lot of project learning and technology, and one way that we've found is by incorporating the Makey Makey. So that's what we'd like to talk to you about today. In looking at the impact on student learning when you're doing more projects and when you're incorporating technology, it increases student engagement. We've been doing a lot of this right now in my classroom, and just seeing how much the students are helping each other and working together. And I think especially of some of my special needs students who don't always feel success with the reading and the writing, when it comes to stripping wires and putting things together, they become the experts, which really builds their self-confidence.
Absolutely.
Another thing is it encourages creativity. Like you give them an idea and they run with it. We also want to incorporate those STEM and future-ready skills that Joanna talked about earlier, and how we don't know what the jobs these students will have when they're adults. So that's another thing we want to do. Boost their problem-solving skills, listening to them as they're working through and afterwards. We did a stop-motion fairy tales, and afterwards the kids shared. And one of the things that really touched my heart is one of the students said, well, we were doing Rumpelstiltskin, and then we realized we already told her that we were Rumpelstiltskin, so we had to think, well, what we could do, oh, we can have them figure out where she lives. So that whole problem solving that you don't always see when you're doing activities, you do see when you're doing these types of activities. It also connects Common Core standards across the curriculum, and that's something that we'd really like to share with you today.
Started exploring with the Makey Makey, we just reached out, tried to find as many resources as we possibly could, and one that we came across was this TED Talk by Austin Kleon. And he is kind of noted as someone who started the Blackout poetry, what's the word I'm thinking of, like that style or that, you know, that type of art mixed with poetry. And in his TED Talk, he really talks about how no work of art is truly an original. And he says how great artists go through and they take this idea that they have found from someone else, but then they make it their own, or they borrow little bits and pieces from here and there. When he first started with the Blackout poetry, he was staring at a blank screen. I think he's a writer by trade. And he just couldn't figure out what to write. But he looked down and he saw a newspaper on the next to him in the recycle bin. And he's like, well, I don't have any words, but they've got lots of words. So I'm going to use some of those. And so he just started with a marker and he started blacking them out. And before he knew it, he came up with this new style. I highly recommend you go through and watch the video, and it will be in our resources page at the end that you can watch. We're just going to watch the last couple of minutes. And he considers himself a creative kleptomaniac.
That's right, steal. I am a creative kleptomaniac. But unlike your regular kleptomaniac, I'm interested in stealing the things that really mean something to me, the things that I can actually use in my work. And Mr. Steve Jobs actually has a better way of explaining it than I think I could.
It comes down to trying to expose yourself to the best things that humans have done, and then try to bring those things in to what you're doing. I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
Picasso, he said it, artist theft. One time, a writer asked the musician David Bowie if he thought he was original. He said, no, I'm more like a tasteful thief. And he said, the only art I'll actually study is the stuff that I can steal from. How does an artist look at the world? Well, first, she asks herself what's worth stealing, and second, she moves on to the next thing. That's about all there is to it. When you look at the world this way, there is no longer good art and bad art. There's just art worth stealing and art that isn't. And everything in the world is up for grabs. If you don't find something worth stealing today, you might find it worth stealing tomorrow, or the month after that, or years later. T.S. Eliot said that immature poets imitate, great artists, or great poets steal. But he said bad poets take what they steal and they deface it, and the good poets turn it into something better, or at least something different. And that's really the key to creative theft. Imitation is not flattery. So instead of writing poetry like William Burroughs or doing colorful art pieces like Tom Phillips, I decided to try to push the poems into my own thing and keep going with them, because I know that it's actually transformation that is flattery, taking the things you've stolen and turning it into your own thing. So today, you've listened to all these wonderful speakers for the past hour or so. And what I want you to do is what my friend Wendy McNaughton, the artist, does. I want you to rip off everyone you've met. All the speakers you've heard, take a nugget of something that resonates with you. The people you bump into today later, take something from them. But bring it back to your desk, bring it back to where you do your work, combine it with your own ideas and your thoughts, transform it into something completely new, and then put it out into the world so we can steal from you. And that's how you steal like an artist. Thank you.
So we kind of consider ourselves cultivators of creativity, and I kind of heard a common theme between our two other presenters that you're like, oh, that's a great idea. I want to do that too. And the great thing about this, just like we saw in our video, is that we don't just copy it exactly. We take those ideas and then we make it our own. And our kids are doing that too, which is amazing. So our story began 2 years ago, fall of 16. We applied and were awarded the Making STEM Connections Award through the Iowa STEM Council. And it is an amazing award filled with just tools and robots and just really cool stuff. And it also came with 6 Makey Makeys. And we're like, what is this thing? This is a giant version of it. And what we did is we're just gonna try it. We found a couple tutorials. We looked online for resources. The Science Center does a great job of providing workshops to let teachers, try it out. And so we did. We tried it out with our 4th graders in a research project. The kids made interactive posters, and they really enjoyed it, both the research part and the creating of their final project. It was great. Later, the next year, we incorporated it more into our STEAM and stations, along with and using it with robotics, which I think is really cool. If any of you have ever used the Hummingbird robotics kits, Makey Makey goes along with that, along with other tools. In the summers of 17 and 18, Joni and I decided we want to have some fun over the summer. And so we decided we were going to have the opportunity for kids to come in for a maker and coder camp. So the kids made instruments, they made game controllers, they coded games.
They made animals.
They made animals. Oh yeah, some amazing stuff. And then finally in this past year, we pushed it even further with the Blackout poetry. So how many of you have heard of a Makey Makey? Ah! Okay. Has anyone ever used one before? A couple of you. Okay. All right. So this is the Kickstarter video that they used in order to start developing the Makey Makey, and it kind of gives you an idea of what it can do. This is my favorite.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Eric. We're graduate students at MIT Media Lab.
We have a dream that everyone is an inventor.
So we created Makey Makey to let you invent just by alligator clipping. Alligator clips stuff like bananas to your Makey Makey. When you touch the banana, your computer just thinks you're touching the keyboard. The front has arrow keys, spacebar, and mouse left click. When you're ready for more, flip the Makey Makey over and you've got more keyboard keys and support for the mouse. You can even use the board like an Arduino when you are ready. No programming, no breadboarding. You don't even have to install software.
I love that part. No software. Oh. There we go. Okay. Right.
So when we were thinking about how can we incorporate this in the related arts, one of the things we looked at was art and poetry. With our Blackout poetry, we did a little bit of that, looking at, and Colleen Graves is a great resource for that. And so we thought, okay, we looked at other resources. Another way that they used it in art is when you're studying different artists, they would have a painting of the artist and kids could interact with it and they could learn things about the artist. So we thought, what's another way that we can do it? And we decided to incorporate haikus and art. So this is an example of a creation that I did as an example for the kids. And it's incorporating the Makey Makey, and the kids code on Scratch, and then they make their artwork. And we have more examples along the wall of different things. And it was really fun to see their creativity, and it gave them more of a purpose because they wanted to make sure they had 575 syllables. They wanted to make sure their spelling was correct, rather than if it was just written on a piece of paper, it's like, oh, here it is, I'm done. And they wanted to do something that they could create a work of art and also code it together.
Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier when we incorporated it with research. So it kind of gave the kids a lot of incentive to really show their knowledge in a unique way. Now, obviously, I used graphics to kind of show you, but the cool thing for them was that they got to create their displays in also incorporating some conductors. I think for my one group was working with Hawaii, and they built a volcano. And so when you touched the lava, then it talked about all the volcanoes in Hawaii, or how the islands were formed. And so many creative ways for them to share their knowledge. Also, because it's book fair season, over there on the table we have a book recommender, or you can do like a book finder kind of a thing, where using switches and Scratch, it can give you a recommendation or just give you a quick summary of a book just to kind of get you excited about it. So those are different ways that they can be used for the library. So we talked with our PE teacher and just kind of throwing some ideas around. And one thing that he has coming up is he's going to start a speed stacking unit with our students. And he kind of pulled out these really cool cups and everything like that. And I said, well, what about a timer that the kids can use? And then he pulls this really cool gizmo out and he's like, you mean like this? And I was like, oh. And at first I was a little sad, but then the scientist part of me was like, but how does that work? How many of you have ever asked that question? yeah, like how does that work? And through if you've ever taken a toy apart through deconstruction, kids can kind of figure out the mechanisms, or even looking at someone else's coding, the programming of it. And so we're just kind of throwing around ideas about how you could collaborate either with classroom teachers or the tech teacher, in that where the kids could design their own timers and then use them when they're doing their speed stacking tournaments. Other ideas that we just kind of threw around was an exercise generator. So as the kids are moving from station to station, they can come up, and if the exercises are broken out into various types, then they can, come over here. It gives them the exercise. We thought it would be cool if we could possibly add on maybe a short little video. I was really in awe of the video that you showed of the little character doing the movements. I was like, oh, how could you add that in there? To where when it came up with, lunges or something like that, it showed a character going like this. So it builds on itself, and it kind of has the kids keep moving forward with their creativity. And then also lap and exercise counters. And there's so many resources out there just by doing a quick Google search with using Makey Makey for PE.
There was one where they were doing a scooter race, and they had a hula hoop, and the kids either tapped the top of it, or if they were going on their stomachs, they tapped the floor, and it counted. So you can count how many laps students use. And also, if you're like, oh, I like this, but I know nothing about coding, you can go to Scratch and you can type in Makey Makey timer, and all kinds of things will come up that you don't have to create it. You can just connect it with what is already created.
That's the beautiful part. And then you can make it yours. And I love how in Scratch, there's that tiny little button that says remix. And remixing something, you're like, okay, I already have this thing, but how can I make it mine? And that's a really powerful piece.
So then when it comes to music, we have some of our instruments that we have created. And this is kind of our second guitar. The first guitar that was created was a little wobbly.
It's a prototype.
It was a prototype, and so you can always improve on it. And so there are all kinds of things that you can do with instruments. Where our first graders study about sound, and they create their own instruments. So you could take it to another level, and they could incorporate the Makey Makey, or you could have older students pair with them to help them do the coding part and connect it that way. Another thing is we talked to our music teachers, and the fifth graders learn how to play ukuleles. And the teacher said, well, if we could code the chords or the strings, then they could touch the Makey Makey to see if their ukulele was in tune. And so that's another way that they were thinking about using it, is how to tune ukuleles.
Perfect. Okay, so we are going to give you a chance to play today. But before we do, we'll just talk just a little bit about how we get the kids started with the Makey Makeys. When we talk to people, to our teachers in our building about Makey Makey, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
But it's so much fun. So this group of girls, we just started using Makey Makeys with our fourth graders. And one of the things that we show them is, just like Joni and I, when we gave the high five, we talk about conductors and insulators, and how we are conductors, and how that electrical signal goes through, and we essentially become a switch. So when we high five, it completes the circuit, and then an action takes place within the coding. And so they were asked to remix a game, a maze, and they had to get the sprite through the maze and up to its goal. And so instead of just, pressing on their own, they're using teamwork. And so they're giving each other high fives to control the sprite, which is really cool.
And I have something to add to that. When we were doing the art projects, I had a Makey Makey set up with just a USB connector, so they could see when it lights up, you have your connection going. And so all of a sudden I look over and there are these 4 girls and they're saying, okay, let's make a circuit. Well, let's see, is our hair conductive? So they're clipping the clips on their hair and seeing if that works. Well, let's try our ears. Then they have the alligator clips on their ears. Oh, look, this works. And it was just fun to see them experimenting and taking that next step with their learning.
One really great thing is on the Makey Makey website, they have really, they've done a redesign and updated what they call their labs page. And they've done a really great job of, I think it was on the poetry page, I kind of did a screenshot of one of their tutorials. Also in there, if you have younger learners who can't quite figure out how to get the alligator clip to work, there's a hack in there to get it to connect to clothespins. So if dexterity is a potential issue, then there are always ways to work with it. Okay, so this bit.ly URL, and it's also, if you have the TIC agenda up, it is posted at the bottom of our summary, and it just says resources, and it goes to a s'more page. And towards the bottom, we have a Scratch Studio link. And that's what this is. If you've never used Scratch, it's such a great tool for kids to express creativity, problem solving, all those things that we just got done talking about. And these are some of the projects that we have either created or remixed and made our own. The projects, and we can bring the projects to your tables. So whichever project you want to try out, if you want to come up and be the next awesome bass player, you're welcome to give it a try.
And we have most of them connected that all you have to do is plug this in your computer and click on it on there, and everything is connected, just to make sure that you're touching the ground, and we can help you with that too.
Yes, yeah. So that's the really important part, is that just like I said before, Joni was connected to Earth right here, and then I was connected to one of the arrow keys. And so we were the switch when we did the high five, that completed the circuit. And then the Makey Makey told my computer to act like my keyboard. So in a lot of the projects that we have up there, there is a way for you to be connected to Earth, and then you are the one who's doing the controlling and acting like a keyboard.
We also have number 6 pencils that are conductive because they have softer lead over here, and some papers. So if you want, on the one slide where you saw he was coloring and made the connectors, if you want to,
the Pac-Man?
Yep, the Pac-Man. If you want to experiment with those,
Yeah.
you can do that as well.
And in a workshop that I recently took, they were talking about art, and so draw a scene of some kind. Like I think they gave us a topic like fall or something, and so we drew a fall scene. And so I drew my trees, little animals, and other things like that. And then when I connected my Makey Makey, then I can program that when the up arrow is clicked, I can have my bird singing, or when the down arrow is clicked, I can have very calm and soothing music playing or something like that. So there's a great connection to art, which Joni showed you.
Oh, and you can use aluminum foil, copper tape, or you found aluminum tape at Menards,
yes.
that cheap aluminum tape?
Yes, it's like $6 for a giant roll aluminum tape, and they use it for duct work. Yeah.
And brass fasteners are really cheap too. They're great to use as well.
Yeah, that's how I made the strings.
Yep. Okay.
Just with that tape.
Okay.
So
we'll just.
you guys ready to play? Okay. Who wants a bass guitar? So the ground.
I click right here?
Yeah. So yep, bass guitar, and then we needed two of them came undone.
Oh, okay.
But the ground is attached to this piece right here. So if you rest your hand on the bottom of the bass,
okay,
then that is what is helping to make the complete circuit.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I was playing it, I kind of rested my palm here,
okay,
and then you can just tap the. You're gonna have to click
okay,
to activate flash.
If it's
And then
updated.
allow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully Adobe's updated.
There it goes.
Okay.
Okay, so click the green flag.
Okay. My volume's off too.
So that's what it does if you're just playing with the keyboard.
Okay.
And then when you hook up the Makey Makey, and then so rest your palm on this part and then just touch.
There we go.
Can you hear it?
Huh? I'm not real good.
No, that's okay. I mean, my husband is a musician, and so I was like, I need a song that has 3 notes.
Yeah.
And so what's the first song you always play on the bass guitar?
Smoke on the Water.
Smoke on the
Yeah,
Water.
yeah.
So I was like, bum, 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 ba-da.
Exactly what it is. That's cool.
Yeah. And we, when we tried it like if we use the erasers, like it won't bleed over into the tree. So, but the key with that is that just like your grass can't be touching your tree, because then the electricity is just going to take the shortest path.
So if I stop it here,
You can stop it there, yeah. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna. Where's your mouse? Okay. And then for when this pops up, we just tell the kids to just click allow. You click on the puzzle, click allow, and then it refreshes, and it should be fine.
Do I have to have all of them connected? Or
No, you can just do 2. Okay, so what do you have it connected to? An up arrow and a right arrow?
Yep, sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, so here's what you're gonna do. We always start with an event block, and those are like the darker orange. Yep, click there, yep. And then these are all of your event blocks. So do you see the one where it says when a space key is pressed?
Yep.
Take that one and drag it to your scripting area. Okay, and now what do you want, let's see, it's connected to your tree. What do you want to have happen when they touch the tree? So we can either have it play a sound, we can have something happen on your screen.
Let's do a sound.
A sound, okay, so then we go to sounds. And the cool thing I love of this about Scratch is its library. So if you click on the little speaker icon, these are all the sounds that you can incorporate into your project. So they have musical loops, musical notes, instrument, human, electronic. If you want to do an animal effect, noise,
What?
maybe like a bird or something, or a door creak, perfect. Okay, then click OK.
Sarah Newman has hers up like November 1st.
Now we go back to scripts,
I saw that.
and then go to the sounds blocks. And they're all color-coded, which is really nice. So you can say, if you show someone an example of blocks, then they can figure out where those blocks came from. So now you're going to say, play a sound. So just click, hold, and drag it, and then you'll see them snap together. Did you see that line?
Yep.
Let go, and it snaps. Okay, so now when you press your space bar on your computer, it should make that door creak sound. Okay, all right, so now let's transfer that to your drawing. So one thing that you're going to need is a way to connect back to Earth. So if you get one of the other alligator clips and connect it to Earth,
Like, what do you mean, like here?
this bar right here.
Oh, okay. I'm like, we are on Earth.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay, so hold that clip in one hand, and then with your other hand, touch that. And just let go. And so part of the problem solving is that I tell the kids, watch the board, because if it doesn't light up, which it does. Did you see it light up? Mm-hmm. So if it doesn't light up, then somewhere there's a broken circuit. So it is making a connection. So then we can go through and it does work on your computer. Oh wait, that's the up arrow. My bad. We needed to do space. Oh, sorry. When up arrow is pressed. Sorry, see? Problem solving.
down arrow?
Yeah, so there's a down arrow. So you click on that and then it gives you all the letters and the arrow keys. So we need to program that to the up arrow. See this tiny little triangle right here?
Yep.
Click and then do up arrow. Okay, now try it on your Makey Makey.
Just touch it.
Yeah, touch that. And so the more, if you were to like completely fill this in, like fairly dark, you would be able to touch anywhere on your tree, and that triggers the signal.
So what does this do?
Now it doesn't
I'm not
work.
connected,
It
I
doesn't
know.
work for you
I know, I
because
just
you're
wanna
not
try it.
connected
That's
to Earth. Yeah,
I just want to try it.
yeah. Because we get kids doing that all the time. You're like,
I
it's
know.
not
I
working.
was going for it, I'm like, this is not gonna work.
I did it as
But I still want to do it.
Yeah.
I still want to find out.
Curiosity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.